Furniture retailer JD Group, now controlled by Steinhoff, as we said, with just over 50% of the shares in issue, is South Africa's biggest furniture retailer by revenue. JD Group's operational brands include Bradlows, Joshua Doore, Morkels, Russell's, Hi-Fi Corp, and Incredible Connection. JD Group has a market cap of 10.5 billion rand and a price to earnings ratio of 12. Looking at that price to earnings ratio, Viv, if I can start with you, that suggests there is some bit of value, especially when you compare it against Steinhoff, who we've just been talking about.
Yeah, I mean, Steinhoff's a cheaper in price to earnings ratio than JD is. But that being said, looking at Steinhoff, you're looking at the makeup of that business. And if you do have basically the general thesis that South Africa is getting wealthier and down the road Africa is getting wealthier as well.
Yeah.
The kind of businesses that they have here are going to be the first time fridge buyers, the first time, dishwasher buyers, and they've introduced that into the market as well. So South Africans and Africans to a large extent are going to be buying these products for the first time. So there is going to be a lot of demand coming through. And if you have that longer term view about a positive African growth story, a positive South African growth story, and a move out of a lot of people out of poverty, the general long-term view for JD is quite positive. And even the shorter term, I mean, like we mentioned earlier, with the lower interest rates that we're seeing right now, a lot of these goods are financed. So therefore, you are going to see low interest rates, a lot more demand coming through.
Yeah. Paul, given the history that we spoke about with the Steinhoff guys, their acquisitive nature, is it time to perhaps ship out of JD Group or hold on until the offer for the rest of the business comes through and then maybe just move over to Steinhoff? Yeah.
I'm not sure that we're going to see a buyout. I think it suits Steinhoff quite well now to have 50% of JD Group and to have all of their South African furniture and retail related activities in there. And then Cap International, which is Klaus Down's group. Again, you remember his name, I mentioned it earlier.
I do.
That's where all the logistics and the manufacturing and the PG Bison and the Unitrons and all that's going to end up. Both now quite sizable groups. And they pulled a fast one here by doing a share swap between the two in order to engineer, so Steinhoff's got more than 50 of both.
Right.
But they were aided and abetted in this semi-devious strategy by the PIC and by Vestact Asset Management, because the five of them basically decided to cook this whole thing up.
Right.
And nobody else could work out what was going on, and boom, that's what we've now sit with.
Paul, you've done a lot of homework on this one, so it has to be hot for you to be looking at it.
Well, JD Group, I like the assets there. I like Bradlows, the new CEO. Remember, that group is recovering from a very bad publicity spat that they got into 3 or 4 years ago when they were on carte blanche and they were accused of ripping off their clients with very high interest rates.
Yeah.
The CEO, David Sussman, has now moved out of the group, but I think they're well positioned. The assets are quite clean, and they do run their own financial services book. So they do their own lending, and that's quite profitable.
Right.
Remember, they've changed their year end, and they've had all this complication with Steinhoff. So I think they need to settle down a bit so we can see where the earnings
So
are.
where do you stand? Where do you stand?
I'm sort of neutral on it. I wouldn't be hot on it right now.
It is not hot. Viv?
Look, I mean, I wouldn't say no to it. Compared to, like I mentioned earlier, compared to some of the other retailers out there, the clothing and the food retailers, furniture is quite cheap. So I wouldn't be as favorable towards it as which is what Steinhoff, but I wouldn't be negative in it as well.
So would you go hot on?
Yeah, if I'm going to have to be forced, I probably would go 10 to hot, but I wouldn't be as hot as I would be on Steinhoff.
I'm not getting too hot out of Viv. He is stuck in the middle somewhere.